They didn't come to conquer Earth. They came to erase humanity. In just 6 hours, billions were gone. Cities burned. The sky turned dark. And hope disappeared. But in the middle of this massacre, only 3 humans survived. And what they did next changed everything. The sky changed before anyone understood what was happening. It was a normal day. People were working, children were playing, and life was moving as always. Then suddenly, the sunlight started fading, not because of clouds, but because something massive was covering the sky. Giant alien ships appeared silently, blocking the sun and turning day into darkness. There was no warning, no message, no chance to prepare. Within seconds, panic spread across the world. People looked up in fear, not knowing that this was the beginning of the end. The alien race, known as Xyrax, did not come to communicate. They came with one purpose, and that was destruction. Their weapons were unlike anything humans had ever seen. There were no bullets, no explosions, just waves of energy that moved through cities like invisible storms. Wherever the wave passed, everything disappeared. Buildings, cars, people, everything turned into dust in seconds. Human armies tried to respond quickly. Jets were launched, missiles were fired, but nothing worked. The alien shields were too strong, and their technology was far beyond human understanding. Soldiers watched helplessly as their attacks failed again and again. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. Entire cities vanished in minutes. Communication systems were destroyed, and governments lost control. People tried to escape, but there was nowhere to go. The Xyrax were everywhere, above every continent, covering the entire planet. The world was falling apart faster than anyone could imagine. Fear turned into hopelessness. Humanity was not fighting to win anymore. Humanity was just trying to survive. And even that was becoming impossible. Within hours, the Earth was no longer the same. The invasion was not slow. It was fast, brutal, and unstoppable. The Xyrax did not stop, did not hesitate, and did not show mercy. For them, humans were not enemies. Humans were nothing. And as the sky burned and the ground turned silent, one truth became clear. This was not the beginning of a war. This was the end of humanity. But what the Xyrax did not know was that even in the darkest moments, humans never truly disappear. Deep inside the chaos, something was still alive, something that refuses to give up, something that would soon prove that no matter how powerful the enemy is, humans always find a way to rise. The world that once felt alive was now turning into silence. Everywhere there was destruction, broken buildings, empty streets, and no signs of life. The screams that once filled the air slowly faded, replaced by a terrifying quiet. The Xyrax continued their mission without stopping. They were not just killing humans, they were erasing everything that humans had ever created. Libraries were burned to ashes, wiping out knowledge that took centuries to build. Satellites in space were destroyed, cutting off all communication. The internet, the biggest connection between people, disappeared in moments. It was as if humanity never existed. Families were separated in seconds, parents lost their children, and friends vanished without a trace. People tried to hide in basements, underground tunnels, and abandoned places, hoping the destruction would pass. But the Xyrax always found them. There was no escape, no safe place, no second chance. Every second, the number of survivors became smaller and smaller. The strongest armies in the world had already fallen. The leaders who once controlled nations were now gone. There was no one left to fight, no one left to protect. Hope was slowly dying. Some people gave up, accepting their fate, while others kept running, even though they knew it would not change anything. The Earth itself started to feel empty, like a planet without a soul. Oceans became still, cities became ruins, and the sky remained dark. Time felt slow, but destruction moved fast. In just a few hours, billions of lives were gone. The Xyrax had done what no one thought was possible. They had almost wiped out the entire human race. And then, suddenly, everything stopped. The attacks ended. The ships became still, and silence covered the planet completely. It was not peace. It was the silence of extinction. The Xyrax believed their mission was complete. They believed humanity was finished. But they were wrong. Because even after everything was destroyed, even after the world had fallen, a small spark was still alive. And sometimes, a single spark is enough to start a fire. Humanity was broken, but not completely gone. And that small remaining piece was about to prove that even when everything is lost, humans never truly stop fighting. This was not just the fall of humanity. This was the moment before humans rise again. Under the ruins of a destroyed city, deep below the surface where light could not reach, something unexpected was still alive. 3 humans had survived the massacre. It was not because they were the strongest or the smartest. It was pure chance, pure luck, or maybe fate. A soldier, trained to fight, but now with no army left. A scientist, full of knowledge but with no world to use it in. And a young girl, innocent but forced to face a reality no child should ever see. They did not know each other before, but now they were all that remained. At first, there was silence between them. The shock of everything that happened was too heavy. They had lost everything, their families, their homes, their world. The soldier wanted to go back up and fight, even if it meant certain death. The scientist knew that fighting blindly would change nothing. And the girl, she did not speak much, but her eyes showed fear and courage at the same time. Slowly, they began to understand one thing. They were not just survivors. They were the last hope of humanity. If they gave up, then humanity would truly end. They started working together, not because they had a plan, but because they had no other choice. The soldier protected them, always ready for danger. The scientists searched for answers, trying to understand the enemy. And the girl, she kept them human, reminding them why they needed to keep going. Days passed in darkness, with limited food and no contact with the outside world. Every sound felt like danger, every moment felt uncertain. But something inside them started to change. Fear slowly turned into determination. They were no longer just hiding. They were thinking, planning, preparing. The scientist began studying the alien patterns, noticing small details that others missed. The soldier trained every day, ready for the moment they might have to fight again. And the girl, she listened, learned, and became stronger in her own way. Together, they became something more than survivors. They became a team. The world above them was destroyed, but below the ground, a new beginning was forming. The Zyrax thought they had ended humanity, but they had missed something important. Humans do not need billions to survive. Sometimes, all it takes is 3. And these 3 were about to prove that no matter how small the number, the spirit of humanity cannot be destroyed. Because humans do not just survive. Humans rise. While hiding in the underground shelter, the scientist refused to believe that the Zyrax were completely unstoppable. Every system has a weakness, every machine has a flaw, and every powerful force has a limit. The problem was finding it before it was too late. Using broken equipment and damaged devices, the scientists started analyzing the alien movements, their attack patterns, and the way their ships communicated. It was slow and difficult, but step by step, something started to make sense. The Zyrax were not acting randomly. Every move they made was perfectly coordinated, like a single mind controlling everything. This was not just an army. This was a system. And every system depends on a central control. Days of research finally led to a shocking discovery. The entire Zyrax force was connected to one main signal, a powerful core that controlled their ships, their weapons, and their actions. If that signal could be destroyed, the entire alien army would collapse instantly. It was the one weakness that could change everything. But the discovery came with a problem. The signal was not coming from Earth. It was coming from their mothership, a massive structure floating high above the planet in orbit. Reaching it would be almost impossible. The soldier immediately understood the risk. Going to space with limited resources and no support was close to suicide. The scientist knew it too, but also understood that there was no other option. If they stayed hidden, they would eventually die. If they tried to fight on Earth, they would fail. This was their only chance. The girl listened quietly, understanding more than they expected. She did not see it as an impossible mission. She saw it as the only way to save what was left of humanity. For the first time, there was a real plan. Not just survival, but action. Not just hiding, but fighting back. The idea was simple but dangerous. Reach the mothership, destroy the core signal, and end the Zyrax control. But simple ideas can be the hardest to achieve. They had no proper equipment, no working spacecraft, and no guarantee of success. Still, they decided to try. Because humans are not defined by what they have. They are defined by what they do when everything is taken away. This discovery changed everything. It turned fear into purpose and survival into a mission. The Zyrax believed they had already won, but they had made one mistake. They underestimated humans. And that mistake was about to cost them everything. Because when humans find even the smallest chance, they turn it into power. And that power is what makes humans rise. The plan sounded simple, but in reality, it was almost impossible. 3 humans, no army, no proper weapons, and a destroyed world around them. But sometimes, impossible plans are the only ones that can change history. The soldier, the scientist, and the girl stood in silence, knowing that this mission could be their last. There was no backup, no second chance, and no guarantee that they would even reach space alive. Still, they decided to move forward. Because staying and doing nothing would mean certain death, but trying gave them a chance, even if it was small. Deep within the ruins, they found something unexpected, an old, heavily damaged space shuttle. It was not in good condition. Parts were broken, systems were offline, and fuel was limited. But it was still something. And right now, something was enough. The scientists began repairing the shuttle using whatever was left around them. Wires were reconnected, systems were restarted, and slowly, the dead machine started coming back to life. It was not perfect, but it could fly. The soldier prepared for what was ahead. With very few weapons, every move had to be precise. Every second would matter once they reached the mothership. The girl watched and helped in every way she could. She was no longer just scared. She understood the mission, and she knew that their actions would decide the future of humanity. Time was running out. The longer they waited, the more dangerous it became. Finally, the moment arrived. The shuttle was ready. They entered the broken spacecraft, knowing that there was no turning back. As the engines started, the ground beneath them shook. It was not a powerful launch like before. It was unstable, loud, and risky, but it was moving. Slowly, the shuttle lifted off the ground, rising above the destroyed Earth. For the first time since the invasion, they saw the planet from above. A world once full of life was now silent and broken. But this view did not weaken them. It made them stronger, because now they knew exactly what they were fighting for. As they moved higher into space, the danger increased. The Zyrax defense systems detected them. Small alien ships began moving toward them, trying to stop them before they reached the mothership. The soldier took control, fighting back with limited weapons, dodging attacks, and protecting the shuttle at all costs. It was intense, fast, and deadly. One mistake would end everything. The scientist focused on navigation, guiding them through the chaos, finding the only path that could take them close enough to the core signal. The girl stayed calm, even when everything around them was falling apart. She trusted them, and that trust gave them strength. Against all odds, they pushed forward. The shuttle was damaged, alarms were sounding, and systems were failing, but they did not stop. Because humans do not stop when things get hard. They move forward. They fight. They survive. And sometimes, they do the impossible. As the massive Zyrax mothership came into view, one truth became clear. This was it. The final step. The final chance. Either they would succeed and save humanity, or they would fail and disappear like the rest. But one thing was certain. They were not afraid anymore. Because fear ends where purpose begins. And their purpose was clear. This was not just a mission. This was the moment where humans rise. The moment they entered the Zyrax mothership, everything changed. The environment was dark, silent, and completely different from anything they had ever seen. The walls were alive with strange energy, and the air felt heavy, like the ship itself was watching them. There was no time to waste. They knew the core signal was somewhere deep inside, and every second increased the risk of being detected. The soldier moved ahead, leading the way, ready for any attack. The scientist followed, trying to track the signal and guide them in the right direction. The girl stayed close, her eyes observing everything, her mind focused. Suddenly, the silence broke. Zyrax units appeared from the shadows, fast and deadly. The fight began instantly. The soldier defended with everything he had, using skill, speed, and pure determination. It was not just about survival anymore. It was about finishing the mission. The enemies were stronger, But the soldier refused to fall. He fought like someone who had nothing left to lose. The scientist finally located the core signal. It was in the center of the ship, protected by a powerful system. Reaching it would not be easy. As they moved forward, the danger increased. More enemies, more obstacles, and less time. The shuttle was already damaged, and escape was uncertain. But they kept going, because turning back was no longer an option. Finally, they reached the core chamber. It was massive, glowing with energy, the heart of the entire Zyrax system. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. The scientists started working on disabling the system, trying to break through its defenses. The soldier protected them, holding back wave after wave of enemies. But even he was reaching his limit. The situation was getting worse. Time was almost gone. And then, something unexpected happened. The girl stepped forward. She had been watching, learning, understanding everything silently. While the others were fighting and working, she saw something they missed. A small weakness in the system. Without wasting a second, she moved toward the core. The scientist realized what she was doing, but there was no time to stop her. The soldier fought harder, buying her the few seconds she needed. With courage beyond her age, she activated the final sequence. The system started breaking down. Lights flickered, alarms filled the ship, and energy surged out of control. The Zyrax units stopped moving. For the first time, they were not in control. The core signal was collapsing. A bright light filled the entire chamber. This was the end of their control. This was the moment everything changed. The Zyrax, who showed no fear before, now faced something they never expected. Failure. In that single moment, 3 humans did what billions could not. They broke the system. They ended the control. They proved that no matter how powerful the enemy is, humans can fight back. Humans can win. This was not just survival. This was victory. This was the moment when humans rise. The destruction of the core signal changed everything instantly. Across space, the Zyrax ships lost control. Their perfect coordination disappeared, and their systems began to fail. On Earth, the remaining alien forces stopped moving, their power fading away. The invasion that destroyed humanity ended in silence. But this silence was different. It was not the silence of fear. It was the silence of a new beginning. The 3 humans had done the impossible. They had stopped an entire alien race with nothing but courage, intelligence, and belief. The mothership began collapsing around them. Systems were failing, and time was running out again. They had won the battle, but they still needed to survive. With quick thinking, they rushed back toward the shuttle. The path was dangerous. The ship was breaking apart, but they did not stop. They had come this far. They were not going to fall now. As they escaped the mothership, a massive explosion filled space behind them. The Zyrax control was gone. The threat was over. As they returned to Earth, the view was still painful. The planet was damaged, broken, and empty. But now it was free. For the first time since the invasion, there was hope. They landed back on the surface, stepping onto a world that needed to be rebuilt. They were no longer just survivors. They were the beginning of something new. From 3 humans, a future would grow. It would take time, effort, and strength, but humanity was not finished. Humanity was starting again. The soldier looked at the horizon, no longer filled with anger, but with purpose. The scientists saw possibilities, new ways to rebuild and improve. And the girl, she smiled slightly, knowing that they had changed everything. They thought it was the end of humanity. They believed no one was left. But they were wrong. Because even after everything is destroyed, one thing always remains: the will to survive, the courage to fight back, and the power to rise again. Because humans don't just survive, humans rise.